So you want to become an Iron Woman. You've spent the past 2 years preparing for the upcoming Ironman competition. You've made decisions that will hopefully affect your finishing position, such as buying new equipment, gear, and snacks to help you along the way. Your goal now is to try and figure out what you need to focus on in order to finish the highest possible placement along with actually completing the race. You've come to the right person. I can help. This presentation will go over a couple of things that will make it so you have a better understanding of how the Ironman works and what variables and probabilities will be a factor in making decisions on what you need to focus on overall. The presentation will begin with an overview of you, the competitor, and the field of competitors that you're up against. Then we will look at correlations by sections of the race and the overall race. And then we will talk about 5 variables that need to be considered in relation to finishing place. Independent and combined probabilities of each of the sections of the race will be looked at to see what is most important before we discuss what you need to focus on primarily, which will then be all brought together in a wrap-up. So you, the competitor, are a female in the 25 to 29 age range with a focus on the Ironman Florida. Over the past 5 years, the Ironman Florida race has had 225 females compete in the 25 to 29 age group. The median finish time for these 225 females is 13 hours, 20 minutes, and 7 seconds. As you can see from the visual on the screen, you will be able to see the overall swim, bike, and run rank of the almost 180 women who actually completed the race out of the 225. You can see that those who tend to have a better bike or running rank finish higher up overall, as the swim rank tends to go up and down and doesn't really have a whole lot of correlation compared to the other two at the moment. Now let's move on to specifics. As you can see for the swimming section of the course, the correlation seems to be relatively positive. If you look at all the years combined, if you move roughly a quartile higher in the swimming rank finish, you go up about 40 overall position points in the final rankings. By year, if you move up about 12 finish rank spots, you also increase your overall finish by about 8. You can see when you look at it by year that the correlation seems very positive. Looking at the biking portion of the Ironman, you can see that there's even a stronger correlation between bike finish and the overall finish. You can see if you look at the bike finish by year, for every rank in the bike finish that a contestant went up, their overall rank went up just about 1 position as well. The running portion is in a similar boat as biking. There's also a very strong correlation. However, the strongest correlation for running comes into the overall looks of it. By year, it is slightly behind the biking correlations, but if you look at the overall contestants, it has the strongest correlation of the 3 sections. The transition times of the race also have a correlation, but not nearly as strong as the 3 main components. For every 2 ranks that someone finishes up higher with either transition time, they get about an extra rank in the overall finish. So there is merit in increasing your transition time, but not nearly as much as the other 3 sections of the course. And now looking at all aspects of the race together, you'll see that improving the finish rank of the running section increases the overall finish rank, followed closely behind the bike finish, and then a significant drop for swim, the transition times together, and then the individual transition times. With all that said, what are the variables to focus on when training for the Ironman Florida competition? The top 5 variables to focus on are the run time, the bike time, the swim time, training, and then physical traits of the competitor that seem to affect the best outcome possible. Shown on the screen are the 3 tables for each of the sections of the race: the competitor, the year they competed in, what their finish rank that year was, along with their respective split time for that section. As you can see, the run time has the best correlation with finish and run time, followed closely by bike, and then you can see when you look at the swim table that there is a drastic difference between the other two, as the swim time has very little correlation compared to the other two in terms of finished. After the top 3 variables for finishing the Ironman, which are the 3 individual splits for the 3 sections of swimming, biking, and running, the next most important variable to consider for competing into an Ironman competition is training. Studies have shown that those who finish higher in Ironman competitions tend to have greater training volumes at faster paces compared to other competitors. The weekly training hours also tends to affect race performance primarily for women compared to men, although it is a factor for both. In addition, athletes who train in a lower training intensity tend to perform better overall compared to those who train at a continuously higher intensity. This is because too high of an intensity tends to have a negative correlation with performance. This could be due to burnout or something similar. Shown on the screen is the breakdown of training for women in a study for Ironman competitions. The final variable for an Ironman competition is physical traits. It is shown from studies that lower body mass index, and body fat are positively associated with faster overall race and faster run splits. This is primarily for men but also affects women. Regardless of what type of race, competitors who originated from the United States of America have statistically been shown to perform better overall. And although this is focused on the 25 to 29 age group specifically, women aged 32 to 33 tend to have the best performance statistically at Ironman competitions. This may or may not bode well for those who are close to the end of the age group, but it is something to consider. Finally, bodies conditioned for race due to prior experience at similar races tend to perform better. Those who partake in something like the Olympic distance triathlon or marathon running are prime examples of ways to condition the body to be ready for an Ironman competition. Shown on the screen is a table from a study that shows the breakdown for female and male winners and the best traits associated with each. Now that the top 5 variables have been discussed, let's focus on probability. We will focus on 5 probabilities. The probability that the fastest swim time is the winner, the probability that the fastest bike time is the winner, the probability that the fastest run time is the winner, the probability that the first person out of the water finishes top 3, and the probability that the first person off the bike finishes top 3. Looking at the past 5 years, the fastest swimmer seems to be all or nothing, either winning first or not placing in the top 3. 3 of the fastest swimmers in the past 5 years, 60%, have gone on to win the Ironman. The remaining 2 have finished within the top 10. Looking at biking, it is very similar to the swimming section. Over the past 5 years, the top bike finisher has gone on to win 2 out of 5 times. The remaining 3 have finished within the top 5, which is better standings overall than the fastest swimmers. If they do not win, they finish outside of the top 3. The run section is a different scenario. Only 1 of the top 5 runners in the past 5 years has gone on to actually win the Ironman. However, 3 of the remaining 4 have finished second, and the 1 remaining has finished in the top 5. So what does this all mean? The first person out of the water has a 60% chance of winning the Ironman based off the past 5 years of data, but fails to finish the top 3 if they do not win, which has a combined probability of 60%. First person off a bike follows similarly with a 40% chance of winning if first off, but not finishing in the top 3 otherwise. So when looking at these combined probabilities, it's pretty much all or nothing when it comes to finishing top 3. Over the past 5 years, the first swimmer out of the water and the first biker off the bike has never won second or third. While not a combined probability that we were aiming to look at originally, it appears that the final portion of running is where competitors can pick up lost time, as the fastest runner has an 80% chance of finishing in the top 3 over the past 5 years. Bringing everything together, what you need to focus on the most as you prepare for this upcoming Ironman competition is the run time. As previously shown, those with the fastest running time have an 80% chance of finishing in the top 3 over the past 5 years. In addition, the correlation results find that improving the running split drastically improves the finishing position of the individual overall. Wrapping everything up, improving any section bodes well for a competitor, but focusing on the 3 main sections in priority of run, bike, and swim is best. Training without overdoing it in terms of intensity or too many hours gives the individual the best chance of finishing well. Certain physical traits also help with placement, although some are in control of the individual and some are not. Having the best run time gives the best chance of finishing top 3, which is my best recommendation for what you should focus on when training. Having the best swim time gives the best chance of winning overall, but it should not be relied on. Best of luck with your training, and I can't wait to see your results.